I found them one evening by accident, a small bundle of letters tied with a pale thread, hidden in a drawer I hadn't opened in years. The paper had turned soft and yellow at the edges, as if time itself had been gently reading them all along. I didn't even remember writing so many, but the handwriting was mine. That uncertain, leaning scrawl I had before I learned how to pretend calm. I sat down by the window, the light already fading, and for a moment the world grew silent, like it was waiting for me to open them. The first letter began with your name, simple, unguarded. I wrote it as if saying it could still make you appear. It was the winter after you left, and everything in my life felt like a room without sound. I wrote because I didn't know how else to keep you close. The words were soft, full of apologies for things that never really happened. Back then, I thought love was measured in guilt. The more you felt sorry, the truer it must be. Reading it now, years later, I realized I wasn't asking for forgiveness. I was trying to forgive myself for believing that silence was weakness, that moving on meant forgetting. The second letter was sharper, written in spring, when the days started to lengthen, and I thought I was healing. The sentences moved quickly, like someone walking away without looking back. I could feel the pride between the lines. The kind you wear when you're still bleeding, but don't want anyone to notice. I told you I didn't need closure, that I didn't care anymore. But even on paper, the lie trembled. Sometimes indifference is just love wearing armor. The third letter came from summer. It was the one that surprised me the most. I wrote it during a trip, somewhere near the sea, judging by the stains of salt on the corner. My words were softer there. I wrote that I had started to understand you, not through memory, but through absence. The space you left had become a mirror. I saw myself, not the version I was with you, but the person learning to breathe without needing to be understood. Funny thing about time, it doesn't heal by erasing, it heals by layering. Every new day builds another thin skin over the wound, until one day you touch it and feel warmth, not pain. The fourth letter, the one I never finished, was written in autumn. The ink fades in the middle of a sentence, a thought left hanging. Maybe love was never about staying. The rest was empty, but maybe that's how it was meant to be. Some feelings can't be concluded. They can only be carried gently, like a photograph that never leaves your wallet. As I read, I realized something quiet. These letters weren't really to you. They were to me, to all my former selves who kept searching for the right ending. Every line was a version of me trying to learn a new language of acceptance. I placed them on the table, one by one, like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't known I was solving. The room around me felt different, lighter, softer, as if time had finally exhaled. Outside, rain began to fall, slow, delicate, each drop making its own small sound against the window. I thought of how we used to talk during storms, saying things we couldn't say in sunlight. You said once that rain was the world remembering itself. Maybe that's why it feels like nostalgia. It's everything that once was, falling back to the earth. I took a deep breath. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to send those letters. They had already reached where they needed to go. Sometimes words don't travel through distance. They travel through time. And when they finally arrive, it's you who reads them differently. I burned one letter that night, not out of anger, but to watch the ink turn to light. The flame rose quietly, graceful, like a memory learning to let go. I realized how much beauty there is in things that end softly. It's strange, isn't it? We spend so much of life chasing what's unfinished, not realizing that the beauty of a sentence often lies in its pause. Maybe that's what love really teaches. Not how to hold on, but how to stop reaching. When I finally closed the box, I felt calm. The letters had become less of a story and more of a landscape, a place I could visit without getting lost. You once told me that some people are seasons, not meant to stay, but to change the weather inside us. I think I finally understand. You were my storm and my spring, my silence and my song. And now, even when I no longer wait, I still listen. Not for your voice, but for the echo that taught me how to hear. So I'm writing one last time, not to send, but to keep. Thank you for existing in a chapter that made me real. Thank you for leaving when the story had already told its truth. Thank you for being the lesson that endings can be kind. I place this final page beneath the rest, and as I close the box, the rain slows, the window clears. Somewhere between the drops, the world feels rewritten. Love doesn't end, it just finds a quieter address.